Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back, or welcome to another Bangs audio review. Oh, I just had to pause Los Dioses. Man, that is a good track for this set. The set of the day today, is the Tipsy Spica 260. Now, you might be wondering what a spica is. I looked it up. It's a bandage. It's like kind of like a fan swirly shaped kind of bandage. That was the only definition I could find in the English language, so not sure what it has to do with this, except maybe it's like, your audio fix, perhaps. I don't know. Could be stretching on that one. Could be reaching. But anyway, yeah, Tipsy is, it's got a little place in my heart because it's Science Audio's main brand, and of course my buddy Harrison is involved with them quite heavily, of course. So yeah, it's a situation where, like, when I do reviews of these, I tend to be the Tipsy sets. I tend to be probably a little bit more critical than I should be, because I don't want to come off as being just biased because of the relationship. So it took me a little extra time, and I do apologize because this was supposed to be done like over the weekend. That's a challenge in of itself, with my son being out of school, of course. But yeah, that didn't happen. So we're running a little bit behind, and I promise I'm going to make up for it by doing the Dunu DTC 800 today as well, which I did quite a bit of testing of the Tipsy set on this little guy too, with its Cirrus chips, and that went well. But anyway, let's get into a little unbox and specs so we can get those out of the way and get into how these little suckers sound. They are pretty small shells. Single DD2BA set, and the box is very nice. This was like a demo set for them, like at Signed, and so I think there might actually be a sleeve that covers this. I'm guessing there probably is. But Harrison's always like, do you mind if it's been opened and pictures have been taken and stuff like that? And I'm like, no, of course not. Why would I mind? So obviously the set came compliments of Science Audio. So yeah, I think there's a sleeve to it. In the box, the IAMs are planted right in here with the cable on. You get, that's not the cable, by the way. There's another story in itself. The puck reappears. Tipsy feeling a bit tipsy on the front. And then it looks like you can customize this because it says handcrafted for. So there may be an option, although I didn't see it yet on the Signed and store on Amazon, but there may be an option to customize the case, which is pretty cool. Anyway, we'll get into accessories in a second. Specs wise, you get this handy little card with all the specs on it. I love it when they do that. Your owner's manual and warranty there. Came in this nice sleeve, which fits perfectly right there. Specs are, alright, so what we have is a 9.2 PET/PEN titanium plated diaphragm dynamic driver. 9.2. That's a number of note. That's a size of note, because if you look at some of the new Canera sets, like the new Adonis, they're using a 9.2 titanium coated dynamic driver. Now, the Adonis also has two BAs, as does this, although they do count it as one. It's two units, it's a composite unit, so there's actually two, moving iron units combined into one. You see that a lot. So some of the marketing, I think you might see it says one. It's really two. It's really two BAs. They're 31736 balanced armature composites. Frequency response from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Sensitivity is 105. Nice little sweet spot right there. Impedance of 17 ohms. And it is a skin-friendly resin, they'll call it. So it's like medical grade, I guess you would say that. That's what that would be. So there are your specs. I'll show you the cable that comes with it. And set of ear tips. Again, this came with these. I double check. There might be another set that is involved, but if not, these remind me very much of the silicone tips that came in both the S12 2024 and the S08, meaning they're high grade tips. high-grade silicone tips. You know, the stem is firm, and the feel of these is really quite comfortable, pliable. You shouldn't have any issues with fit on those. If that's the only set you get, well, at least they're good. The cable, cable is dainty, as we might say, and it is a QDC connection, and it does terminate in a 3.5. I should have detangled this because I kind of just threw it in the case before it started. But yeah, it's not horribly tangly if you take care of it properly. In other words, don't just throw it into the case. But yeah, it is very, very thin. Now, this is, you know, it could be a positive for some people. It could be a negative for some people. I did, as the other reason this took a little bit longer, I did order the Icy Moon cable from Nice HCK, which is the cable that's on there, in QDC in 4.4, so I could see what an upgraded cable felt and sounded like on them. Sound was very similar to the stock cable. I also tried a Triple Win C8, and that was too warm. I just call it too warm. It was too warm because as you'll see, the mid bass on this is pretty serious. So you don't want something that's too much copper in the composition, because it will warm it up to the point where that mid bass becomes a little overbearing. But with the, again, very dainty stock cable. It is well made though. I mean, the finishes are great. It's just very thin, and that's okay. I don't mind thin as long as thin is well made. Tis. Put those guys back in there. We could finish our unbox. And yeah, story on it. It was a bit of cable swapping and a bit of tip rolling till I got it exactly where I wanted it, which is where I have it now, which I will get into. All right, so yeah, it's a nice unboxing. This retails for $140. There will be an announcement of some viewer / hopefully subscriber. If you like the videos, please hit like and subscribe. I hate saying that, but for some reason subs have slowed down. I'm promising you guys I'm never going to do another political commentary kind of thing. That's not what you guys come here for, so that's not going to happen again. And my apologies if that did bother you. So, yeah, we're going to mention the subscriptions, and I say we, that's me and the people that live in my head, just for a little while, see if I can boost that subscription rate back up to where it was before we got to 1,000. And then I'll stop. Won't bug you guys about it as much. So, on the construction of these and the shape and the ergonomics, they're very small shell. You can peer in there a little bit. It's kind of a smoky resin finish, but you can peer in and see the acoustic tubes, the composite BAs, and the dynamic driver. You know, they didn't make the shells any bigger than they needed to, and that provides a very nice, comfortable fit for long listening sessions, which I had, well, as many as I could. I did go for the Divinus Velvet wide bore tips on these, although the normal bore did pretty well, but I like to open it up a little bit because of the level of mid bass that's on these is significant, and I just felt like it gave a better balance in the sound signature, as well as a little higher silver content in the cable. I think this is, they call it 16 cores. You know what, guys? Like, I do math pretty well, but when, you know, it's like strands and cores, so there's like a ratio there. So something can say it's like 4 cores, but it could have like a ton of strands per core and be, you know, pretty high fidelity, and something could say that it's like 16 cores and have like very few strands per core, and then you're not getting any advantage just because the cores are greater, that I can figure out. So I tried something that had both a high core count and a high strand count, and a little more silver involved, because I wanted a little bit more out of the highs, and this is what I ended up with. And I got to tell you, you know, the 25 or 27 bucks I spent on the cable was well worth it, on top of the, you know, IEM purchase itself. I don't feel like it's something you have to do. I think the stock cable is fine. It kind of just, disappears. Like you don't feel the IEMs after a while because you can't. That cable is so delicate that you don't even feel it. It's almost like it goes wireless, except sounds way better. So yeah, no complaints on it. This is just me. This is my personal preference, the 4.4, and you know, obviously I got this cable for a specific reason. Yeah, it did well. It's a nice combo right here. This would be for me the recommended configuration. All right, so that's it. We're gonna get into sonic impressions and a couple of comps here because it did compare well to a couple of my favorite sets. All right, here's the graph. The graph is what I would call it's a V, right? They're I would say is slightly recessed on some vocals, not all. They did sound just a shade distant in sort of, well, if there was a lot of instrumentation going along with female vocals or higher male vocals, they tended to go sort of take a back seat a little bit. Like you can still hear them. It's like you couldn't hear them. You know, they just seemed a little bit further back. But then when you go to just like more straight vocal tracks, like if you listen to the beginning of Hold On by Adele or the beginning of, what was that track that was really cool? I can't listen to the whole thing because at the end of it, they literally like totally peg the levels and everything is completely distorted. And I know they do that on purpose. Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. Her voice is a little bit too heady for these, and as well as Melody Gardot. Those are kind of the only female vocals that didn't really get along with that well. Taylor was fine. I love that song, Lavender Haze. It's really, really cool. Didn't mean to become a Swiftie. I'm not really a Swiftie. There's a couple of tracks that I like. Where this really kind of set itself apart, and the reason that I love this set, and I do love it, despite it does have, you know, some limitations. It's not a full all-rounder, but what I love about it is that for the first time in like kind of several sets, really, it's a banger for metal, and it's a banger for like hard rock, and it's a banger for hip-hop. And it's because of this. And you look at this and you might assume that it's got quite a bit of bass and that bass is not tucked, and it does kind of, I don't want to use the B word, but you know, let's be honest, there's a little bit of bleed into the lower mids, and the ear gain is not super aggressive, so you know, the treble balances it out in the mid treble. But this is very much like a preference tuning for me personally and for what I listen to the most, right? And it does clean up, like the treble is enough where it cleans up so it doesn't sound muddy, it doesn't sound dull, it doesn't sound, you know, flabby or bloated or anything like that. But you just have to really, really, really love bass. And if you're sensitive to pin gain, this is a good set for you because it doesn't really scream up there. Like it's fairly steep, but it's not, it doesn't go too far up, you know, so you're not getting that shout. You're not getting things in your face. What that does do is it definitely does recess some vocals and some tracks and some genres a little bit more than maybe some of y'all will like. But like I said, they don't disappear. They don't sound hollow. They don't sound distant. They're just a little bit lower in the mix. So that's really the only criticism I could give them from an objective standpoint. From a personal standpoint, this set nails it for me because I can listen to Archspire and Orbit Culture and Meshuggah and Lamb of God and Tool, of course. Sounds fantastic on them. You know, all the heavy stuff, especially some of the heavy stuff that y'all have recommended for me to try and really digging is pretty cool. Yeah, it's a set made for metal, and hip-hop equally sounds as good, and electronica sounds great, and reggaeton sounds great. So it's a bass-focused set, but it has enough in the mids and it has enough in the treble to keep it balanced, which is something that was severely lacking in the 5. And then on the other end of things, you know, not enough bass to keep me happy in the Yukimi. this fixes that problem for me. And so, I gotta be honest, coming off of sets that didn't exactly, wow, there's some magnet going on there. Coming off the sets that were either lacking in one area or the other, and then having a set like this come along was really like a refreshing. It was just a refreshing experience. And so I really, really like this set, and I don't want to be overly critical of it because I don't want to seem biased. I don't want to overly hype it because it's not perfect. If you're a more vocal oriented listener, then the set isn't going to probably have a pronounced enough vocal presentation for you. It is for me. It definitely is for me. And I think for most metalheads and most bass heads, this is going to be a very, very satisfying set. The quality is there. There's no question about sound quality. It's more of a question if the tuning is to your preference or not. Do I think it's well worth $140? Yes, absolutely I do, because it definitely has, despite all that bass, it has a bit of an audiophile feel to it. It's got good stage, good positioning, good imaging, good detail retrieval, nice immersion. It's not a gigantic sound stage, but it feels proper for the way that it's tuned. And it's a set that you can just listen to. There's like really no fatigue. You can just listen to it for hours and just enjoy the heck out of it. So yeah, I really like this set a lot. I wanted to show you a couple of things really quick before we wrap this up. It does get a highly recommended from me because I think that the quality fits the price, if not over delivering, and definitely has a nice build, feel, and fit to it. So one of the tracks that I really enjoyed on this was Invincible, of course, Tool. But there's a particular spot in this track, and it comes in right around the 9-minute mark or so, where it's kind of a build up. Like it's kind of just, guitars, bass, drums. Maynard's not singing, but it's just an instrumental build up. And then a quick pause. And then when it comes in, if the bass is there on the set, it hits so freaking hard. Like with this set, it almost knocks you back into your chair. It hits so hard. The bass is so freaking intense and heavy, and the drums are so intense and heavy, and the guitar is so intense, and everything's like, low, low, low. And if the set that you're using or you're listening to doesn't have that strong of a bass response, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss how amazingly like that build up and then the pause and then just the intensity of when it comes back in is amazing. And then the end of the song, there's like overriding bass synth stuff going on that's also, and it's probably the bass guitar through synth that just like he's playing chords, I think, and it just sort of fills your entire life with just beautiful, warm, yummy bass. Like I said, the bass is pretty well controlled, but it's not fully controlled. It is a little bit, there's a little bit of bleed. It's definitely resonant. It's going to resonate in your ears and in your head and in your chest. But I can't say it enough. If you're a fan of bass, you're going to love this set. Sub bass, like the only probably, the sub bass could be a bit stronger, a little bit more extended, but the mid bass is so good and the mid bass reaches so low that I don't really miss the sub bass rumble that much. There's a little bit, but it's not something that bothers me. It's something that I noticed. I'm like, oh, it didn't pick up those drops on Agony by Slaughter to Prevail. Like, it picked them up, but they were just kind of there. It wasn't like they were rumbly. But again, for 99% of the metal that I listen to, 99% of hip hop and rap and electronica, and it's just so freaking satisfying and so freaking sweet that I can't help but highly recommend it. So that's where we are. Yeah. The Spica That's how you pronounce it. I double checked. So Spica 260 from Tipsy with the piano black and piano white right and left faceplates. Little gold writing on there too. Oh man. All right, I'm gonna listen to these some more, and then in another hour or two, you'll have another review up. DTC 800 is next from Dunu. For now, that's gonna do it. Be careful, be safe, be nice. Love y'all. Nothing but peace to you. We'll see you soon.